All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Arena of Ideas podcast. Feels good to be back. It really does. Everything I do is an opportunity, and every episode is another chapter in this saga known as the Arena of Ideas podcast. I'm going to start out with the disclaimer real quick. All right, so podcast disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this and all Arena of Ideas podcast episodes are that of the host and guests, not to be taken out of context or misrepresented by any means possible. All right, thank you. It feels great to be back. This is episode 53. I've got 53 episodes now. I'm working on the one you're presently going to hear. And we're going to give some props and some plugs and some thanks for a whole lot of situations here. Starting with this episode, I want to give a big shout out and thanks to Keyshawn. He's from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Again, I'm out of Pueblo, Colorado, and Keyshawn is from Colorado Springs, Colorado. And he's got a lot of ideas. This guy's amazing. I kind of told him that, we have these ideas and things, and if you have something to say, you can definitely get what you want to say out there on a microphone and put your own podcast together. I definitely have told him that. And I've a few people I have in mind that are great and they could do wonderful things with this medium known as podcasting. All right. So anyway, shout out to Keyshawn from Colorado Springs, Colorado. He knows who he is. Yes, he does. All right. And I've got some other shout outs and I've got my regular episode and everything. So we're going to dive right into this. But anyway, so episode 53 is Frenemies, the love-hate relationship of success. And frenemies, if you put these words together, it's friend enemies. And it seems like everyone, I don't care who you are, what walk of life you are, anything else, it seems that somewhere along the lines, you have people that are like this. And you don't think about it or whatever else, and it could be insecurity, it could be jealousy, there could be a whole lot of things going on. But back to it again, Keyshawn, again from Colorado Springs, Colorado, he had this idea on this situation here and thought this would be cool as an episode. And again, thank you to him. And then I'm going to dive right into this. We're going to go into, of course, the episode itself, 53. We've got, of course, Comedy Corner, the microphone check, and, of course, the legends. And we've got some good stuff on the docket for you today. Definitely with this episode and everything else, I think you're going to love it. So let's just dive right in, shall we? All right. So, Frenemies, the love-hate relationship of success is episode 53 in the Arena of Ideas podcast. When is it crossing the line? A life gone too far, past the point of return. And this is metaphorically speaking, of course, talking to everyone out there. The start of friendships is a really wonderful time. Everyone goes through it. And as a kid, it can be for life. Usually it's a small number that is there for the long game, less than 5. Typically, everyone goes through different things and everyone changes friends. They change jobs. I've talked about this before. Change jobs, change friends, change work, change family life. I mean, all these different things you go through changes. Well, you'll meet a lot of people that come along the way, but you're going to have probably 5 or less of true friends. These people that have been around forever and they're ones you look to for advice, ideas, and all other things. They're the ones you truly confide in when it comes to any situation. And that's true. I say less than 5. Again, is it proven or anything? No, it's just kind of through life experience. I'm in my 50s and have seen it along the way. Everyone kind of comes to that list. Not all have this experience or the opportunity. The fortunate who do can count their blessings for the most part. Meaning counting your blessings. You can work things out in your head and work things out, go with your gut instinct and stuff. But this is basically people you can confide in, and it might be your most dark, deepest secrets and things that you don't want to tell anybody else, but you'll tell them. Again, they have that appeal. They have the situation where, you can trust them, you can confide in them for sure. All right. So anyway, in life, everyone goes through physical, mental, emotional changes. You also change your job, friends, relationships, modes of transportation, where and how you live. Well, this is not a story of sunshine and lollipops. No, this is not. This is not it's great. It's a Norman Rockwell painting. This is a perfect situation. It's the life, life ordinary to extraordinary. It's not all those things. This is the darker kind of, you would listen for Keith Morrison, right, on Dateline. And once you hear him speak and say, well, this was a wonderful relationship and experience, but wait, there was more, ... going to commercial and coming back. And next thing you know, it's going to be the dark situation. So again, frenemies, friends that are enemies is basically what we're talking about here. So friends can become enemies and enemies can become friends through understanding, through communication, through the process of meeting someone and getting to know them. You may have had differences, but maybe those differences can create likenesses and personalities and different ways in which to look at things and to truly be there for each other. You never know. So anyway, the table is turned, so to speak. Most of the time, insecurity, ego, pride, and a sense of entitlement and expectations assume the outcome. Big, heavy-duty stuff. Like I said, some things come around. You never know what to expect, but, that it does happen. It does happen to people, and everyone knows somebody like that in your life. It could be from a long time ago. It could be out now. You never know. All right, so best friends pertaining to the subject in this episode know exactly all your secrets, views, weaknesses, and how to strategize and crush your defenses crush your defenses without on the surface being detected, meaning you don't really know. They know all your point, counterpoint stuff. They know the stuff you're strong on, you're weak on, and everything else. And those are good. And it's called vulnerability. And yeah, that can be a good thing, but it could also be something in the wrong hands, the wrong people with the wrong motivations. Could be a bad situation, right? Exactly. So anyway, weaknesses, again, how to strategize to crush you and everything else. So basically, on the surface, right? On the surface, being detected, it's your best friend. On the surface, it looks like it's your best friend. One's successful and you're on a different trajectory in status, finances, socioeconomic places. If friends become jealous and threatened of your opportunities, or they see what you're doing these wonderful things, you're kind of meeting some goals they were going to want to try and get to, but they're not doing that, or they don't want to do the extra work and put the effort in. Some people have hanger-on friends and things like that, where let's say you win the lottery, or you blow up or become big, or something else happens. And next thing you know, they're wanting to be and do the same thing you're doing, but not wanting to put the work in. That's kind of what I'm talking about here, right? So basically, if friends become jealous and threatened over your opportunities for success, you are finding the true mettle, moxie, and loyalty, or lack of it. In life, many things and situations reveal a lot about the character, backbone, and intentions of who is in your inner circle of trust. People you can go to, your go-to people. No matter what, call, talk to them, be in person, whatever's going on. Those are those people that you can look to truly be that foundation of what you want to do and you as a person can be a part of. Because again, sometimes it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes sometimes a group of people to help you become who you are in life and all things. Exactly. So, most of the time, you should be celebrated for your success and the hard work you put into to get there. Yet everyone has all walks of life, relations, and some will stay close to use the Sun Tzu method to their, and it's to, and in their minds, get what they deserve and what's coming to you. Well, the Sun Tzu method is keep your friends close, your enemies even closer. And in this case, you reverse that and it's keep your enemies close and your friends even closer, right? And so they'll have that Sun Tzu method where they go through that process and try to utilize things with you in order to get maybe some of the goals and things that they want in their life. You never know. Some people are like that, right? Some people, like I said, don't want to do the work or put the efforts in that you've done. And so what you got is you got people with a smile on their face are trying to either stab you in the back or something else, and you're not thinking about it up front because it's these people that are supposed to really truly be there for you. Again, frenemies, friends that are enemies. They get what they deserve and what's coming to them. Many times in life, rich and famous people will have agents, and family members will use their influence and relationship to then game the system to get over and bilk that person. Basically, you're not really realizing what's going on. Your focus is other places, but yet this behind the scenes is going on because some people that are rich and things might have friends. Let's say you became a rich and famous entertainer or a sports person or something. And some examples, you've got, people trusting people way too much in finances or something else and ways in which to help in the business, thinking they can help their old friends become a part and become big and they themselves can be successful. Well, sometimes those relationships are strained by the situation and that's what happens. So anyway, I mean, that's a bad situation to bilk someone over something. More than not, it's a common occurrence when your life changes and you become more goal-orientated. Things work out, not by luck, by your efforts, initiative, etc. Things that you put forth as the effort. All right, so basically in life, some people will take a personal inventory of themselves, look at everything, look at some previous things you maybe set as goals and things, and then you go on. Well, also maybe doing a assessment when it comes to your friends and things like that, because you never know what's going to happen. Again, people that you can trust and people who are in that inner circle of trust that you have, they could be some of the ones. Well, look at Rome, look at the Senate, look at Julius Caesar and all the rest of them. Well, it looked like all those people were there for Julius Caesar, but what ended up happening in the process is that people that Julius Caesar thought he could trust and everything else actually ended up stabbing him in the back, metaphorically and physically, in the situation, thinking that he had all this under control and he could look past even the people that are there for him. And it didn't work out, right? It just did not work out in that process. So sometimes some of your greatest strengths can be your weaknesses, and flip side of that and reverse that, because you never know what's going to happen. And anyway, so you start weeding out those not worthy of maintaining a relationship with you. Some will take it as, what can they do to get where you are, setting goals and aspire for greatness? And you aspire for greatness in your life. Great things like I said, you've set goals on, and you've gone to gotten an education, or who knows what you did to get that. But basically, well, this episode is in here for the ones motivated and remain true to you through thick and thin. The ones that are there for you no matter what, late at night, in the morning, whatever's going on, whatever you're going through, they are going to stop and kind of put down what they're doing to get to where you are, because you matter. And you're a lifelong friend and really like family. A lot of people that have these close friends like this, they think of them like family. Exactly. This episode is here for the contrite, jealous, insecure, resentful, and downright nasty people who, behind your back, thinking they should get what's coming to them, right? They think they're entitled. And because they have been here for you as one of, in quotes, their boys. Basically, you've been there for them, everything else. Let's say you blow up or you win the lottery or something else, and they're all of a sudden thinking they should have their hand out. There's some people like that where they have their hand out and thinking they should get where you are, but they didn't want to put the work in. So they're insecure, they're contrite, and all the things I had just mentioned, right? And that does happen. We'll stop right here for a moment. Where do you see yourself with this? Like I said, everyone has somebody like that. It could be family. It could be friends. It could be just people you just met. Who knows? But anyway, you out there listening, what do you think about all this so far? It does happen. It happens in life. Trust but verify. Not everyone can be on the same level and everything else. And sometimes people are, and what you think of them meets the personality and everything else. What your idea of them meets what is really truly going on. But in this situation, far from that on the target, right? Basically what's happening is that, they're using their trust and things that they have with you as a relationship as a part of how they can sit there and use it to their advantage in the situation. So again, their boys is just kind of who you hang with, who you're with, who you look to as being a part of your inner circle and things like that. All right. So, cause I've heard that being used as a term. All right. So anyway, in quotes, that's a nickname. So, or whatever nickname is being used. So as you agree to disagree, the space between becomes wide degrees of separation. Because again, you guys are not seeing life in the same light. You're not seeing the process together in this whole situation. Again, you're frenemies, friends that are enemies. So does the negativity, hearsay, and every bad example, and then times of trouble and times that are hard and all those roads and everything, they're not there for you. Proven that the more successful you become, the smaller the circle becomes. Now it's a trust factor based upon stature and position. So can you trust? You have more or less a large following, and you have basically all different accumulations of friends, right? Different levels, different tiers. Tier A might be your closest innermost circle. B, they're not quite as close, but you do confide in them and you talk to them and like their company and stuff. Anyway, basically you have different levels of accumulations of friends and different views upon everything from coworkers that you may work with all the way up to, like I said, those true tree of trust type people, in quotes, of course, that you have as that accumulation of different types of friends. Okay? So anyway, what do you think about all that? Like I said, where are you with all this? Do you have the situation going on? Are you hearing some things now in this episode 53 about, of course, frenemies, the love-hate relationship of success? Are you going through that? Are you a part of that? Or are you the close-knit part and you're that look to, or that looking for, or go-to person that they're talking about in the positive side of this whole thing? Think that through. All right. So anyway, as things change, as in all phases of life, some friends will have conflict against themselves and let jealousy and being the alpha, if you will, alpha being the dominant person or dominant force or the dominant personality or whatever's going on. That's an alpha. Basically when the opposite is actually the case. Sometimes people will think that they're the alpha or whatever, or they think, due to whatever, or however their level of trust with you and the relationship is, of being friends and stuff. They may think themselves the alpha because they're getting comfortable, if you will, in quotes, in the situation, but maybe they're far from that. Maybe they are. We don't know. I don't know. So real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut to some bumper music. I try to chop this thing up a little bit. Again, while you're going through the break part of this, think in your head yourself of where you stand with all this and how do you see all this? Is this going on in your life? Or is it just something you're coming, to grips with? Or, maybe in the future it might happen to you too. All right. I don't know. Nobody knows. But anyway, here's what we're going to do. As you can hear, that's the bumper music. This is episode 53 of the Arena of Ideas podcast. Frenemies, love, hate, relationship of success. We'll be right back. All right, thank you. We're back. Appreciate that. Okay, so what I've compiled is kind of gotten together. I looked at a few things and went through a list of some things here that is kind of a list of maybe the reasons why as to what's going on. All right, so anyway, it's kind of a list of things that may have transpired, like at first your friends, your lifelong friends or whatever's going on, and then due to distance, to conflict, to outside, influences or something else, you're not quite there. That's not what's going on anymore. So let me dive right into this list here. All right. So outgrown friends due to different goals and interests, right? Many friends will either wear out their welcome and they'll become the basically through dynamic changes or something else like that, or refuse to change. Sometimes in your life, you're going through changes and everything else, and maybe they won't. Maybe they won't change. They're going to remain the same person, wanting to live the same life as you were when you knew before. And in your life and through different, life situations, maybe crisis or something else, things have changed between you. Or things are changing, and so are you. But sometimes people have to be flexible and change too, because it can't always be just you. But then, like I said, you never know what's going to happen. So, or they refuse to change and have their hands out, thinking you owe them something in return, not just for them to be there, but they expect something. Sometimes people in life always think, well, I'm not going to do anything unless you pay me, or this or that, or they don't look at the fact that you can learn life experience and everything else, and this can pave the way for success for yourself, or even for them, or as a group, or as friends themselves. You never know. Remember, those changes and likes and dislikes we all go through as we age. This applies. So basically, like I said, when you're a kid, I'll give an example of food. As a kid, you're going to change your diet. You're going to change what you like to eat. You're going to eat maybe some other things that are like they're this or that, and you won't try different foods and different Epicurean things and all this other stuff. But by the time you get to it down later in life, it's going to be something that's going to matter to you, and it's going to be something you're going to go for the taste part of it over the actual other things that you're actually eating. So people go through these multiple changes, 5 or so changes in your life, from your circle of friends to your education to where you work, what you drive, to everything. Everything kind of goes through changes, and everybody goes through this. All right. So basically that's what I'm saying here, right? We all go through as we age. This applies to everyone, right? Success may cause insecurity, jealousy, and resentment. Friends, they may compare themselves to you, what they haven't done in periods of time, blame themselves, and felt inadequate in the situation. And, like I said, some people in any situation, if you talk about any subject matter or anything else, everyone's going to have a different view, an opinion, their perspective, worldview. They're going to have all these different ways in which to look at everything. And as people get comfortable around other people, sometimes they may take liberties and maybe not think of the other person, but think of themselves when it comes to that relationship. And that's really what we're talking about here in this process. And so that in turn, that turns into envy of what you have. This causes tension and strain on the friendship. This factor always comes into play, especially with families. The top of one, though, here's the thing, especially in play, this comes into play, especially with families. The big part about this is nepotism. If you're dealing with, let's say, your parents or somebody you know owns a business or something, and you're in line because you're the oldest or whatever, and you think you're in line for that business. Well, you just think it's owed to you, right? And maybe you haven't worked and you haven't earned and you haven't done the most you can do to get that process. Well, that's where people get comfortable, especially with families and with very close friends. The top one being your parents, siblings that basically don the burning question you keep having on repeat. That as friends face a firing squad of comparisons, right? Basically, this is your brother. This is the most, sometimes parents will come out and say this is the favorite or whatever else is going on, right? Exactly. So sometimes people will face, the friends or family will face a firing squad of comparisons, dealing with the fact that, everyone should be treated like an individual and should be looked that way. But sometimes it isn't always that way when it comes to what people are going through. So, hey, you aren't doing as well as so-and-so, right? You're comparing this person to that person, or relatives will come up and say, well, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, somebody else, you could do, you did better in school. What happened, right? Kind of like that 10-year reunion where, you're out of high school, it's 10 years, and then you're looking back to, well, what did you really do? Did you accomplish anything? Did you set goals? Did you meet those goals? Are you living the dream? Are you living the world that you wanted to? Are you where you truly want to be? Or what else is going on, right? So-and-so did better in school. What happened? Don't get me started on the 10-year reunions, right? It can become this face of this overpowering brooding and remorse. It's hot, it's heavy, and sometimes this life can get to you, right? And you don't realize it, but it's in your face and you have to put up with it. Become this force of overpowering brooding and remorse. It just piles up on your plate. Strain and tension can be fuel to some who take it out on you at every level and every way possible, would rather trade in your friendship for finances, right? Would rather just, cut off their nose to spite their face, or do whatever it takes. And whatever they want to do, they see the money signs, they can look past and utilize that friendship as a stepping stone in a process and way in which to get where they want to get in that whole situation. I mean, trading in your friendship for finances and not communicate with their best intentions, right? Once you evolve, your friends and your personalities, views, and other things change. Everyone does. Everyone goes through this process. I've gone through it. Everyone does. Some can't let go the anger, rage, ire, and treatment the way they now have in the form of resentment. Can be heavy. Or some people can put everything else aside and say, look, what we have is more valuable than that. But some people can't. This is a material world. And some people don't look at it like that. They think, how can I get over? I got these things I got to do. I got this, and this. And what do I got to do? They'll look past everything else that matters to them, everything else they've built up as, like with other people. And they're going to throw all that away and just, throw it out to sea, basically, in the process of basically, resentment and everything else towards what's going on. Just know that all of us as humans are competitive, right? Everyone is competitive and want to win at every cost to a degree. Everyone does. Winning does matter, but at what cost? What have you learned? Did you learn a life lesson in the process? But some people, like I said, will take the competitiveness and they let that build up and they let that be their fuel. And so that's what powers and fires people up. And some people, like I said, will look past everything else just to get what they want. They got to get theirs, right? They got to get theirs. And with it, you can leave others in your wake. The ones who can be casualties of all this are those who are there and basically they're part of your support group. It could be your friends, could be your family, it could be your support group, confidence, and keep your relations private. now that is strained, right? I mean, so basically it could be all these things, all these great things, and basically it can all turn to sand. So what you had was a relationship that was like a rock and everything else, but then it all turns to sand because they let this competitiveness and everything else going on in their life matter more than the process of what really matters most, which is that friendship and what's important to you. Correct? That's the way I feel about it, right? Just know that all of us okay. So anyway, I got legendary friendships and rivalries here. Okay. I got this kind of down as kind of a point counterpoint of this Frenemies episode. All right. Before I move forward in this discussion about dealing with frenemies, in your life, again, I guess you have to do your own personal assessment as to what you think of this or what your views are, but where do you stand with all this? Where does this rank with you in the process of, your innermost circle of people and people you call friends and everything else? Where do you value? What do you value with that? And where do you stand with all that? I mean, you out there listening, what do you think about all this so far? These things I've been talking about, these might explain your situation and may explain a situation with maybe somebody else and they're going through all this. Maybe have them listen to this episode. It's important to know because, like I said, you never know till you get there. And sometimes when you're in the fishbowl, you don't realize you're a part of the whole situation when it comes to this, right? You're not sure, but you don't realize that it's all going on, but people from the outside can see all this. And maybe they pull you aside and go, "Hey, Mike, guess what? I don't know about this person. I don't think they're here for the right intentions. It looks like they're doing things for themselves. They're kind of looking at this aspect of the optics of self, not team or not the relationship you have with them. You may want to look at this, think it through, revisit it and analyze it because I don't know if this is going to work for you in the process of what you're looking at or what you value. You yourself, how do you value it? How do you look at it? That's ultimately what we have as a barometer, if you will, and metrics that we all can go through. So I'm going to get this legendary list of friendships and rivalries, okay? And Julius Caesar and Pompey were childhood friends till they both fought over and became rivals for power of Rome. Look at that. I did mention Julius Caesar earlier and that he thought people in the Senate were there for him. And look, this is a lifelong friend in Pompey. Pompey also mentioned, named after a few famous things also in Rome. All right, Kanye West and Taylor Swift. Fallout starting as friends till the mic drop heard round the world. Okay? That's when she was receiving awards. She was talking on the microphone. Kanye West butted in, and it caused a rift ever since then. Before that, they were kind of friends and things. Again, according to articles and things like that. Right? Exactly. All right, so Nikola Tesla, famous inventor, and of course, he's been on a microphone check. I mean, he's actually been on a Remember the Legend, and so is Thomas Edison. So anyway, I did kind of discuss the rivalries they've had against each other and being inventors and everything. But anyway, Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. Tesla had many patents and inventions working under Edison, who used his influence and stature to have to basically take and steal his ideas and things and come up with some things on his own. I mean, using their science and everything else, getting close together, that Sun Tzu thing, your enemy's close, your friend's close, your enemy's even closer. But what if your friends and enemies have switched? That whole topic is switched, and now it's inverted, right? It's now become the different and the latter. Exactly. So, what you got is Biggie and Tupac controversy. They were the best of friends when it came down to it, and I've also covered this in a microphone check. But anyway, they were the closest of friends, both living on different polar sides of rap when it came to the East Coast and West Coast. Tried playing that off like it was some rivalry and things like that. But to me, some other outside influences and things caused that. But anyway, the Biggie and Tupac controversy, Prince and Michael Jackson, they kind of had a run-in with all these things too. Because see, Prince, like I said, he was a triple threat. He could dance, he could do all these other things. So could Michael. So they kind of had their beefs and things like that when it came to them versus themselves, basically, in that situation. Let's see. Keith Richard versus Elton John. There's another situation dealing with those two having issues and being friends, and then kind of being on other sides of the scale when it came to the process of being friends and things like that, and then turning into enemies, so to speak. So they got I didn't want to get into too length and hit anyone over the head with this stuff, but just wanted to put it out there. There are some famous ones that are, blah versus blah v blah in a challenge, right? So David Bowie versus Peter Frampton. That's another big one. I mean, I don't have all the backdrop and everything else, but again, these people have, their own separate successes and their own stories, and they're famous and they're entertainers, but sometimes different views and different everything else, maybe they come together in the world of whatever it is, entertainment, music and stuff, but then all of a sudden something happens on one side or the other. Next thing you know, it's a separation. Now it's them versus them. And it could be as simple as being a friend, hearing the wrong things. Now you've undercut somebody or duped someone over something, and next thing you know, somebody wants to pay. Somebody has a beef against someone, and they want someone to pay. So there's giving you some ideas on some of that situation dealing with that. All right. So in an article in Quora, Quora, it's a magazine, there is the following statement, which to me is apropos to, I believe Keyshawn from Colorado Springs was thinking of as his idea pertaining to this episode. Again, thank you, Keyshawn. Again, big props, a big shout out to you for coming up with the influence and being the inspiration as to why this episode's out there. Appreciate you. Much love, much respect, and all things for you, my friend. Like I said, if you ever decided to jump in this arena and be a part of all this thing and do your own podcast, I'm telling you, you got the it factor, my friend, if you ever chose to. All right, so have you lost your old friends just because you've become much more successful than them? So now they don't want to face you, or they no longer treat you the same out of jealousy, even though you're nice to them. I mean, you could be nice to them, you could see them, and even in passing, maybe you have changed the trajectory of what's going on between you and them. You're being nice, you're doing everything all you can on your end, and no matter what, they're still calling you out, or they're still looking down upon you, or no matter what you do, you're not gonna please them, you're not gonna make them happy. And that was signed anonymous, right? That was signed anonymous in that article in Quora. Okay, he goes on to include family as well. Again, this is signed an anonymous person, but it's through this Quora magazine. In a synopsis of the article, he, after high school, had a run of bad luck. He became homeless, and through 20 years of nightmarish conditions and hard work, which to me should be applauded by pulling yourself up from your bootstraps, right? Basically, you pulling yourself up, going through the situation. In the last 2 years, made giant leaps to success. So his ex-classmates from school, so-called friends, became downright rude and invasive, almost acting like a lynch mob possessed. In school, he was the least likely to succeed. He was given that in school, and some of these things that people can do in school are tough, man. They can really beat you down. They can really get to you because you're growing up with all these, different, emotions and all these other things you're going through, and hormones and all this other stuff. And sometimes this stuff can follow you, and it can lead to negativity. Well, he took this, anonymous person who signed this, basically took it in a positive manner, turned it around, and became successful. So, and under the circumstances played out in the real world. So those friends could not accept his success. So they attacked him on social media, acted as if he was the problem, not the solution, the plague. Stupid. They just were so hateful and incorrigible, wanting his head on a platter, basically. This is getting nuts, man. But I mean, people escalate things like this. People will take one situation or whatever's going on, and they're hurtful, they're insecure about themselves, and they let this play out in the real world or let it escalate to where it's like beyond compare. You almost wouldn't wish this on your worst enemies as to what they were doing to him. Just remember one thing. These were his friends. Add in the fact he was homeless with nothing but despair and being downtrodden, right? Luckily, he laughed it off. He laughed off the outcome. He didn't let it affect him. He didn't let it decide to change what he was already going to do. It's just other people. Some people are negative. They look down upon the worst things in life, and no matter how successful or whatever you do, even if you do it for them, it doesn't matter. They sit there and they just are still negative, saying, this can't happen to me, or this is not, they just look down upon the negatives of what's going on instead of being happy for people to succeed, being there and being relevant and hoping the best for people, because then that karma can come back to you. That's how I look at that. That's the way in which I look at all that. Yet family abused the relationship and connection to him. They basically abused the relationship and connection to him. He could not reconcile their differences and past behaviors to face him. They couldn't do anything to go see him. They basically exiled him. It's ridiculous over just some BS, some baloney, I'm just talking, seriously. Basically scorched earth on all that he knew, yet believing in himself, he kept his sanity. All right. This is a quote. If you have a shred of love and kindness left in your soul, if you have basically a shred of love and kindness left in your soul, right? Again, it's that person. I just told you, that anonymous person. So basically, you can also still, no matter what happens, you can be that positive person. You can look at them and wish the best for them, no matter what, how they look at you or perceive you. Or, they were your friends, now they're your enemies or frenemies. You can still look positively upon their situation and everything else, wish them well, and hope the most success for them. No matter what, they're not going to change. Those people, they're not. No matter what you do, it's not going to matter, right? It's just not. It's tough. So that's what you got to work with, right? That's what you're up against. Amazing, compelling, interesting stuff. I love it. All right, so basically closing, this is kind of putting a bow on this part of the podcast. No matter who you are, walk of life, gender, age, group, social class, race, or by any other metric we classify the human race by, it's called the rubbernecking syndrome. This is me coming up with this, in quotes. Where there is a train wreck and bad things happened. You must see it. This is everyone. No matter what, they have to see the situation. They have to see what's going on, right? They have to be a part of it. No matter what, they're driving, they're having a good day, but they see this train wreck, right? And bad things happen, right? So you must see it. And it didn't happen to you, so you can revel over someone else's demise. Some people go, it wasn't me. And there's some people like that just no matter what, misery likes company. Misery likes the whole thing. And all those things kind of factor in with, some people, no matter what, you can't change them. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink. It doesn't matter. You can tell them it's the greatest water in the world and they're not going to believe you. They probably won't even drink the water thinking something's wrong with it. Anyway, it's all metaphorical. Again, it's that train wreck or that rubbernecking where everybody rubbernecks and everybody wants to look over and wants to see something happening, but it wasn't them. So they're fine, which is bad, right? This seems to be a common theme and thread for sure in this episode, right? After this episode, on the other side of things, I have an episode number 20 called Death by Success. So, all right, anyway, this is Frenemies, love-hate relationship of success. Well, and this is kind of a tie-in with episode 20. Basically, it's anyone will do anything and everything to become successful, to have the life, to do whatever. They'll do whatever it takes. They cut off their body parts to do whatever it took to get there because they crave fame, fortune, and all these other things. Right? So anyway, it's not to take away from this episode, just telling you there's an episode 20. If you thought this was an interesting subject matter and something to talk about, guess what? Episode 20 is Death by Success and People by Any Means, where it becomes the outcome at any cost. Thanks to Keyshawn from Colorado Springs, Colorado. He knows who he is, right? For the inspiration and insight of this intriguing topic that has come to fruition painfully for so many. There's people out there, all kinds of people that, dude, you don't know. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to do. You might meet your best, closest friend who you guys see eye to eye with in the game of life. But some people think life is a game. Let's turn that around, right? Reverse it. Instead of being the best in the game of life, they consider life to be a game and everything else is their pieces and their pawns of what they do. So no matter what, you can't change that. But all you can do is wish and hope the best for everyone else and hope that things work out for everyone, right? That's kind of the moral of the story of this episode. Thanks, Keyshawn, again. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you so much. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, of course, taking some more bumper music here. We're going to jump into some more bumper music. We'll come right back, and we've got the other parts to tie up with this episode. All right, so as you can hear, that's the bumper music telling you to take a momentary lapse of reason, take a break. This is episode 53 of the Arena of Ideas podcast. Frenemies, love-hate relationship of success. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, we're back. Thanks again for being a part of this experience known as this podcast and being right here listening to this episode. Again, I love hearing the ring of it, episode 53. And time keeps marching on, and so do the episodes. I love it, every moment of it. All right, so every so often I do the 3 F's, which is fabric, foundation and framework of this podcast. It's basically principles, and I used to have this as my open all the time. But I don't want people to lose sight of the process and why I do this, right? So we're just going to I always run through this just quickly, go through every couple of episodes, do this. But anyway, this is the experiment at the crossroads between content and conversation reinvented. The podcast is for anything, everything, all things to everyone. This is your place to be. The try to talk, the form of focus. I got, shoot from the hip, straight fire, and all these other different little topical things we can throw in there as pretty much the points for conversation. All right, so I am the conduit of content, voice of the people, for the people, and by the people. And basically, I'm a man, a message, and a microphone. If you're screaming at the TV, the radio, the sky, over the things in your head, or if you have beefs, rants, race issues, and problems, and other things that you want to talk about, and the hows and whys and everything else that matter, look, that's why it's here. Again, I'm not going over the whole thing. I just want to get you guys to know that in principle, it's logic, reason, common sense, and everything else that matters to all of you out there and me And I'm trying to get back to all these things and principles and everything else. And some people, this might be a foreign language, but guess what? I'm just trying to get us back to where we need to be. All right. So anyway, that's the 3 F's. It's the fabric, foundation, and framework of this podcast. It used to be the open. Now it's this whole other part to it. And so now we're going to jump right into the comedy corner. Actually, before I jump into that, I want to do a plug, prop, and shout out to, I was at the state fair here in Colorado, down here in Pueblo, Colorado, to be exact. I had met a very dynamic young person. Her name is Dakota, Dekota. She's from Walsenburg, Colorado. She knows who she is. So I've got a couple things for you from her. All right. So as you all know, I do plugs, props, and shout outs to people promoting people, or if they want to promote themselves. So I do shout outs. I do props for people, giving them props and assisting in things. Okay. So she gets a shout out and a prop. Dual rated. Why? Because she is having a birthday. So basically, Dakota from Walsenburg, Colorado. Happy birthday. Big shout out to you. I hope you're listening and all your friends are listening too in the process of this podcast, and also for your birthday. Happy birthday, Dakota. Congratulations. You made it another year. Awesome. I think it's wonderful. Now, she also has another part in here where she was talking about liking a certain group. So anyway, the microphone check is about a group called the Suicide Boys. Again, Dakota, Dekota, from Walsenburg, Colorado. She wanted that microphone check being done on the Suicide Boys. So here in a moment, we're going to get into that. But again, Dakota, happy birthday. Again, wonderful. Now we're going to get into the comedy corner. All right. So a magician was driving down the street. He turned into a driveway. Don't trust atoms. They make up everything. Walk into a forest, cut down a tree. The tree doesn't understand why cut. Was it stumped? All right, so basically, and real quick, if you have anything like all episodes, the first 52 episodes, or even this one, 53, if you've got comments, ideas, and things you want to get out there and convey, word of mouth, Michael Kingston 723 at yahoo.com. You've also got my phone number that's also listed in the information part of it. Again, I don't do social media or media. And mine is a grassroots effort to try and get people involved and try to get, more support and more people listening, and I want a bigger audience and everything else. Well, I'm sorry. There's some friction there and some deals issuing. There's some situations dealing with social media myself. If you want to go in and you want to add, parts of the different episodes of the podcast, or you want to put something out there and you want to put something on your own pages on all social media from Instagram, Facebook, X, and all the other different ones, go ahead. By all means, please do so. I appreciate it. I really do. There's also another way you can also support this podcast. At the top, where you have the information talking about my podcast, kind of explaining it. At the bottom of that is a link. And at this link, what you can do is you can help support the Arena of Ideas podcast. I think I have it set at $3. What you can do is you can go and subscribe to my podcast that way. Go to that link, click on the link. It takes you to a place, and you can actually, for like $3 a month, you can help support the podcast. You don't have to. Look, it's up to you. I'm just simply saying that's a way in which you can also be a bigger part and be a more influential part of what I do here in this podcast. Again, this is your podcast. I'm just the host, right? Exactly. So again, that's just some information for you out there, ways in which to get a hold of this podcast. And real quick too, there are 29 places to listen for this podcast on this podcast. So however, wherever you listen to a podcast, you can hear it. Follow, subscribe, hit the thumbs up, do whatever you got to do, and then also hit the notification. So the next time another new episode like this fresh, wonderful bit of content from episode 53 comes out, guess what? The notification's there. You hit that notification, it's going to tell you that I have a new episode out. As being the host and creator of this podcast, you have a new episode, right? Perfect. Okay? Excellent. Okay, that of course is the sounder for the mic check or microphone check, where I take, again, thanks to Nick from Pueblo, Colorado. Nick, you know who you are. You're out there. You're awesome. I hope you're listening, because I mention your name a bunch because you deserve it. Of course you do. Dude, anyone that comes on here and gives me ideas and different things to discuss and talk about, plugs, props, shout outs, I don't care if it's an episode. I don't care what's going on. This is you guys' opportunity to be heard. It's either through conversation or even through me mentioning your name. You matter. All of you matter out there. And trust me, to the ends of the earth and all other things, I appreciate all of you. So this is a microphone check. Again, Dakota, D-E-K-O-T-A, Dakota from Walsenburg, Colorado. She wanted, she was like talking about her favorite music, and this is her favorite group, and she wanted it out there. So I threw this to the front of the line, and it's out there. Anyway, Dakota from Walsenburg, Colorado wanted what? She wanted the Suicide Boys. So here's some information and background information about the Suicide Boys. It's $UICIDEBOY $, again, for S, for boys. Suicide Boys is a rap duo, hip-hop from America. They're actually from America, New Orleans, Louisiana, to be exact. Formed in 2014, and their rise in fame and popularity was on SoundCloud. So they actually started out in SoundCloud. I know a few other people that have talked about doing different things and actually getting themselves out there and getting them on a platform called SoundCloud. It's a way in which to create your own music and buy, beats and vibes and whatever you got going on. You can throw it on SoundCloud, and that's a way in which, in a format that people can actually go out and listen to what you got. That's another way in which to do that. That's an old school. It's been around for a while. SoundCloud has, and people have been using that format. A popular way for artists to get their music out to the masses. Their cousins Scrim and Ruby DeCherry make up this iconic duo with abrasive and self-produced brand of ingenious beats and harsh lyrics content and themes that feature substance abuse and suicidal situations. Strong and heavy, man. Hey, they're talking about their views on life, their opinions, and they're putting it through the beats and sounds of music. Sounds good to me, right? Because this whole arena of ideas is the same thing in principle, but that's what we do, and everyone has their different opinions. So anyway, they own and operate G59 Records. How they distribute their music by The Orchard, and that's like a production or something. AKA $B. Genres they are under. Now get ready, because this is basically, who knew this, right? I sure as heck didn't. This is a learning experience for me, Dakota, doing the research for this. It was interesting. So punk rap, trap metal, trap, hip hop are all what they're considered the genres when you look up Suicide Boys. Considered one of the most popular acts in the underground rap scene. I believe Tech Nine again was in that underground rap scene too, along with some other people too, some independent artists that are out there and putting their music out there and want it for everybody to appreciate and enjoy, but being in the underground scene for it. For years they released EPs and mixtapes. Again, I kind of referenced that too. EPs and mixtapes dealing with the episode 50, which is the life and rhymes of NBA Youngboy the rapper. Again, something else for you to check out here. All right, so in 2018, they released their first album, I Want to Die in New Orleans, made the top 10 on the U.S. Billboard Top 200. Oftentimes very controversial with their in-your-face, no-holds-barred approach, not afraid to tell it like it is. With songs like "Are You Going to See the Rose in the Vase?" or "Dust on the Table," "Thin Gray Line," 10,000 Blunts, Matte Black, Burgundy, Matte Black, and more. Anyway, so check their catalog out. If this is your kind of thing, if this is a thing you like and enjoy and appreciate, by all means, get into their music. See what you think, because again, that's a distinction between us all. It's a universal language for all of us. Music is. It's also why I'm doing the mic check in my podcast episodes. All right, so they kind of remind me of Two Live Crew. There's an old band from the 80s. Check out Two Live Crew in their dark and radical approach to the hip hop game and rap game. Two Live Crew, I tell you what, they were out there, they were on the scene, but they got kicked out of so many different arenas and things over their lyrics. They were considered abrasive, offensive, misogynistic, and all these other things. But in the end, forever and a day, people are talking about them. Why? Because they did what they believed in. They performed their music. But back to it, the Suicide Boys, again, Dakota from Walsenburg, Colorado. Thank you again for coming up with the inspiration and ideas behind putting Suicide Boys on episode 53 for the mic check. Thank you. All right, you know what that is? That is the sounder for Legends. It's actually Remember the Legends. And again, the reason why I have the microphone check and Remember the Legends is because the microphone check, I got, teens and younger than that all wearing different shirts of different groups and stuff. And you go up to them, "Man, I like your shirt." And they don't even know what's going on. They just happen to be wearing a shirt because it was popular, cool, or whatever else is going on, not really knowing the context and the premise of what's going on here. Remember the Legends, again, young people may not know who they are. Old people may misremember kind of who they are. And it's a way in which to bridge that gap and to never lose the history and lose sight on what's going on and what's important when it comes to, the process of, knowing where we are, knowing our history, and knowing some of the greats and the history of our country and also the world. All right. So Ansel Adams is the Remember the Legends for this episode 53. Born February 20th, 1902. He died April 22nd, 1984. 6 months after his death, Congress passed legislation designating 200,000 acres near Yosemite, which is a national park in Montana and Wyoming. All right. Anyway, so basically, Ansel Adams Wilderness Area. American photographer and environmentalist, concerned for the environmental conservation process in which we save nature. He was a true proponent of that. Big, majorly forced his situation through and wanted to make sure that was a big part, an integral part, and we wouldn't have some of the the parks, the national parks and things out today if we didn't have Ansel Adams and his process through the optics and lens of photography to get it out there and really make it a big proponent and part of what we do and the way in which we can appreciate nature in our lives. All right, so known for his black and white images of the American West, he helped found Group F/64, Association of Photographers advocating pure photography, favoring sharp focus and process of perfection. He had a firm belief in environmental conservation. Much of his photos were woven in the love for nature and protection of it through the view of his camera optics. At age 14, he got his first camera. Upon his first visit to Yosemite National Park, he got that camera, taking that trip to Yosemite National Park, stayed with him and never forgot it. Never forgot what he appreciated, enjoyed, and took pictures of. He didn't. Later, got a contract to make photographs of more national parks in the USA, kind of contracted out by the government to go out and do that, which expanded the parks beyond because of his work and passion. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1980. He was the key advisor in the Photo Department Museum of the Modern Art, the Museum of Modern Art in New York. Played a big proponent. He was a big part of that. He put photographs on the map and gave it a voice. His legacy is so expansive. He's a legend, so grand. Appreciate his accolades. He really had it made, and he was really the reason why a lot of those things happened. Right? Exactly. So, I mean, hey, the big part is that, like I said, Ansel Adams, you don't have some of the things, like I said, a lot of these legends and everything else, they're important part of what we have is culture. We have history. We have basically a foundation of things that matter, because if some of these trailblazing pioneers and things didn't do what they did, we wouldn't have what we have today or even beyond for future generations. We wouldn't have it. So basically, if this is your first time being here, I want to thank you for being here. What did you think? If you have come back and you're listening, and there's a few people out there that listen to all the episodes, I want to thank you for being here again, over and over again, and listening to this episode. And maybe this can help. Like I said, with all my episodes and everything else I do, everything from conversation and everything, it's an awareness exercise. And if I'm able to help one person in the process of realizing something, learning something, and maybe waking up to things and realizing that, things do matter in this life and everybody goes through different things, then I've done my job as the host and creator of this podcast. And I want to thank, again, all of you out there for doing all this, being a part of this process. And like I said, if you... it doesn't matter if it's your first time, if you've been here all the time and you're through everything else and you're part of this process, being out here and listening to my podcast, your podcast, I'm just simply the host. I want to thank you. And for everyone giving me this opportunity, I want to thank big props. I don't normally give a list of all the different 29 places to listen, but thank you to Sprecher, Place of My Heart, Speaker with an R. If it wasn't for them and for them being the podcast arm for iHeartRadio, I don't know where I'd be with this reach of 29 places and platforms to listen. But look, thank you again for everything. So, until next time, this has been your host, Mike Kingston of the AOI Podcast, your podcast. Have the best of the rest of your day. And until next time,